Imagine coming home late at night, tired, drained, only to find your nanny had been standing by the freezer, and your baby inside it. That was Helen's reality. And before dawn, she'd have the woman arrested for attempted murder. But when the footage was finally reviewed, the truth no one expected came out. Stay with me. This story will shake your heart and your beliefs. If you're new here, subscribe because we tell real, gripping stories you'll never forget. Helen was the picture of success, a woman who built an empire with her own hands. The youngest CEO her company had ever seen, sharp in mind and sharper in tongue. Her home reflected her, flawless, immaculate, precise. Every object in its right place. Every sound calculated. Nothing ever left to chance. But all that control came from one thing, fear. Because 10 long years before that morning, Helen had prayed for one thing no money could buy, a child. Doctors said her body couldn't carry one. Treatments failed. Hope faded. Until the miracle came, a baby girl named Olivia. She wasn't just a child to Helen. She was proof that God had finally listened. And because Helen knew what it meant to lose hope, she clung to this miracle with both hands. That was why she trusted no one. Every person who came near her baby had to be watched, tested, and trained. Especially the nanny. Her name was Mercy, a quiet 23-year-old from a remote village, barely finished primary school. She'd been working for Helen for just 3 months. In that short time, she'd learned that the woman she worked for didn't just pay salaries, she demanded perfection. Mercy wasn't like the other applicants Helen had interviewed. She didn't wear makeup. She didn't talk too much. She didn't argue. When asked questions, she answered softly, eyes lowered. Helen liked that. Educated girls always think they know better, Helen had told her sister. I need someone simple, someone who'll listen. And Mercy listened. She listened to every order like it was a prayer. She had grown up with her grandmother, a traditional birth attendant who delivered babies with nothing but herbs, cloth, and faith. Mercy had seen things science couldn't explain, babies who came back crying after minutes of silence, fevers that broke after a whispered prayer. Her grandmother always said, "The hands that bring life are sacred. Don't use them carelessly." Those words stayed with her. But in Helen's house, there was no room for old wisdom. Everything ran by the manual. A 50-page document Helen had written herself, laminated, spiral-bound, and color-coded. It contained every detail of how to care for Olivia, how to mix the milk formula, how long to hold her after feeding, how many spoons of food to give, even the exact number of minutes to let her nap. On the cover were 3 bold words. Follow it exactly. That was Helen's law. No decisions. No instincts. No changes. Call me immediately if something is wrong, she would repeat almost daily. I don't care if it's one sneeze or a shadow you don't understand. Call me. There were cameras in every room, sleek little eyes tucked into corners, always watching. Helen checked them at work, during lunch, sometimes even in meetings. She'd zoom in to make sure the blanket was folded straight or that Mercy wasn't carrying the baby too high. Mercy knew it too. The thought followed her like a ghost. Every movement she made was careful, measured, exact. She didn't dare make mistakes. She couldn't afford to. Her grandmother was sick back home, a deep cough that wouldn't stop, the kind that turned every breath into a fight. The hospital bills were piling up. Mercy needed this job more than she needed pride or rest. So she followed every rule, every word of the manual. And then came the morning that changed everything. Helen was pacing the living room, dressed in a navy blue suit, clutching her phone and a folder of documents. It was a big day, a business presentation that could seal a multi-million deal. She couldn't bring the baby, and she hated that. "Mercy," she said sharply, "I've left Olivia's feeding schedule on the counter. Everything she'll eat is in labeled containers. And there's a new baby food, the one the doctor recommended. It's organic, imported. Only give her that." Mercy stood straight, holding Olivia, eyes on the floor. "Yes, Ma." Helen looked at her one last time, eyes narrowing. "Remember what I said. Follow the manual exactly. My phone will be off during the presentation. I'll check the cameras when I'm done." "Yes, Ma." Helen nodded once, pressed a kiss on her baby's forehead, and walked briskly toward the door. The sound of her heels echoed down the hall like a countdown. Then the gate closed. Silence settled over the mansion. Mercy looked down at Olivia, who smiled up at her, tiny fingers brushing her chin. The baby giggled softly, unaware that her mother's voice, her camera's eyes, her world of rules and perfection had all just left for a few short hours. Hours that would decide everything. The morning started perfectly. Mercy did everything by the book, every step exactly as written. The manual was open beside her, its pages already worn from her trembling fingers. Feed at 9. Play at 10. Nap at 11. Every line ticked off with care. Olivia was in high spirits that morning, laughing, reaching out, making those soft baby sounds that melted Mercy's heart every time. For a moment, it felt like peace had finally found its way into that house. Then came a new food. Helen had mentioned it before leaving, the imported, doctor-approved, organic brand she'd been waiting to try. The container sat on the kitchen counter, sealed tight, gleaming under the light like something sacred. Mercy hesitated before opening it. She read the label twice, checked the manual again, and followed the measurements exactly. The baby ate happily, mouth opening wide, little hands waving in excitement. Mercy smiled. "Good girl," she whispered, wiping the corners of her mouth. Everything seemed fine. Perfect even. Afterward, she cleaned up, played a little more, then laid Olivia gently in her crib for her nap. The baby gurgled softly, eyes fluttering shut. Mercy stood over her for a while, listening to the quiet breathing, steady and calm. The clock ticked. The cameras blinked silently. Mercy exhaled. For once, she felt she was doing everything right. But about 20 minutes later, the sound that broke the silence wasn't peaceful. It started with a faint cough, small, harmless. Then another. Then a cry. A strange, sharp cry that didn't sound like the ones before. Mercy turned immediately, rushing to the crib. Olivia was awake now, face red, fists clenched, eyes wide in panic. "Ah, baby, what is it?" Mercy whispered, lifting her up. The baby's body was warm, too warm, and her breathing sounded wrong. Shallow, uneven. Then Mercy saw it. A swelling around the baby's lips, a purple shade creeping across her cheeks. Her heart jumped. No, no, no. This can't be happening. She grabbed her phone instantly and dialed Helen's number. It rang once, then went to voicemail. Right? Helen had said it. Her phone would be off. Mercy's hands shook as she tried again. Nothing. She opened the manual, flipping through the pages wildly, searching for something, anything, about what to do if the baby had trouble breathing. But the pages were calm, structured, lifeless. There was no answer there. Olivia's cries grew weaker. Her face deepened from red to purple. The swelling spread fast. Her lips puffed up, her tiny hands twitching. Then came the gasps, small, quick, broken sounds that made Mercy's chest tighten with panic. She dialed the emergency number, or tried to. Her mind went blank. The number she'd known 1,000 times slipped away from her memory. The phone fell, hit the floor. She picked it up again, dialed wrong, redialed. No answer. "Please," she cried, pacing the room, baby pressed against her chest. "Somebody help me." But there was no one. The estate walls were tall and far apart. The nearest gatehouse was a 10-minute walk away, and if she left now, she'd have to leave the baby behind. Olivia's body jerked once, then went limp. The sound of her breathing gone. For a second, the world went quiet. Mercy froze, eyes wide, heart pounding in her ears. She screamed her name. "Olivia! Olivia!" Shaking her gently, then harder. The baby's head rolled to the side, lifeless. Her lips were blue now. Mercy's knees hit the floor. She pressed her ear to the baby's chest. Nothing. No sound. No breath. Oh God, no. Tears streamed down her face. She tried what she'd once seen on television, pressing on the baby's chest, blowing small breaths in her mouth. But she didn't know the rhythm. She pressed too fast, then too slow. Nothing worked. "Please don't die. Please don't die. Your mother will kill me," she sobbed, shaking uncontrollably. And then, in that chaos, in that storm of terror, something flashed in her memory. A voice from long ago. Her grandmother's voice. When a child eats the wrong thing and stops breathing, "Don't waste time crying," the old woman had said once during a night birth years ago. Cold shock can restart the heart. Cold brings the spirit back. Mercy froze. Her breath hitched. She looked toward the kitchen. The freezer. The idea was mad, dangerous, unthinkable. But the baby was gone already. What harm could she do now? Helen would fire her. Maybe arrest her. Maybe even call her a murderer. But none of that mattered. Not now. Because in Mercy's trembling arms, life was slipping away. And the only thing louder than her fear was her grandmother's voice whispering through time, "Cold brings the spirit back." Her decision came in one trembling heartbeat. She rose to her feet, eyes red, body shaking, and whispered, "God forgive me." Then she ran for the kitchen. Mercy didn't think. She just moved. Her heart was pounding so loud it drowned out reason. The baby limp in her arms, her breath ragged and uneven. The freezer door screeched open. Cold air burst out like a ghost. Her hand was shaking so badly she almost dropped the baby. "God forgive me," she whispered, her voice trembling. "God, please." I don't know what else to do. Tears streamed down her face as she looked at Olivia's still, bluish form. Those tiny lips, the soft curls on her forehead, the silence that filled the house. Then, swallowing her fear, Mercy lowered the baby gently into the freezer. The cold hit her skin instantly, biting, shocking. It didn't feel right. Nothing about it felt right. Her voice cracked. "Please, God, please." She started counting out loud, her eyes glued to the ground. 1, 2, 3. Each second dragged like a lifetime. Her knees were weak, her lips trembling. The air in the kitchen felt thick, too heavy for her lungs. By 10 seconds, she was sobbing uncontrollably. By 30, her body was shaking so hard she could barely stay on her feet. "This is madness," she muttered, pressing her palms together. "What if I'm killing her?" But she didn't stop. She couldn't. 1 minute, 1 minute 30, she whispered, tears dripping onto the cold floor. She looked into the freezer again. The baby's tiny body was still, too still. 2 minutes. Mercy gasped finally, stumbling forward. 2 minutes, God. That's enough. She reached in with trembling hands and pulled Olivia out. The child's body was cold, ice cold, her skin pale and rigid like wax. "No, no, no." Mercy whimpered, clutching at her chest, rubbing her arms frantically. "Please, baby, please wake up." She pressed her lips to the baby's forehead, freezing. She rubbed harder, pressing on her chest, whispering through sobs, "Come back, please come back." Then a sound, a faint cough. Mercy froze. Her eyes widened. She looked down. Another cough, small but real. Then came a soft, weak cry. "Ah, Jesus, Jesus." Mercy screamed, dropping to her knees, holding Olivia tight. "She's breathing. She's breathing." The baby's color began to change, from pale to pink, from lifeless to fragile, but alive. Her lips quivered, her eyes fluttered open just enough for a faint whimper to escape. Mercy's body gave way. She collapsed fully onto the tiled floor, cradling the child, sobbing uncontrollably. "Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord. I didn't kill her. I didn't kill her." For several minutes, she sat there on the floor, rocking the baby back and forth, whispering prayers through tears. Olivia's cries grew stronger, more normal. Each sound was a miracle. Each breath a heartbeat returned. When her hands stopped shaking enough, Mercy wrapped the baby in every blanket she could find. Warm, soft, layers upon layers, until only her tiny face peeked through. She held her close to her chest, whispering softly, "You're okay now? You're okay. Mama's here." Hours passed, though they felt like seconds. Mercy stayed there on the floor, afraid to move, afraid to even blink. Then came the sound she dreaded, the front door unlocking. Helen's voice echoed through the living room. "Mercy? Mercy, I'm home." Mercy's stomach tightened. She couldn't move. The baby stirred softly in her arms, still wrapped tightly in the thick layers of cloth. Helen's heels clicked sharply across the floor until she appeared at the doorway, confident, smiling, expecting everything perfect. But the moment her eyes landed on the scene before her, her face changed. Mercy! She shouted, rushing forward. What happened? Why are you on the floor? Why is she wrapped like that? Her voice was sharp, full of panic and anger. The bag she was carrying fell from her hands, scattering across the floor. Mercy looked up slowly, eyes red, face streaked with tears, hands trembling around the baby. She tried to speak, but her throat felt locked. The words wouldn't come. Helen reached for the baby, pulling back one of the blankets, and froze. Olivia's skin was still slightly pale, her breathing light and uneven. What happened? Helen's voice dropped, low and trembling now. What did you do to my child? Mercy opened her mouth to explain, to confess the madness, the panic, the freezer, but no sound came out. She could still feel the ice on her fingers, the moment between death and life. And in that moment, staring up at Helen's horrified face, she knew this story wasn't going to sound like a rescue. It was going to sound like a crime. Mercy's throat burned as she tried to speak. Words refused to form, but tears came, hot, shaking, unstoppable. She stopped breathing, she whispered finally. I didn't know what to do. I tried everything. I called you, I shouted for help, but her voice cracked, she went still. Helen stared at her, frozen. Mercy pressed on, her voice breaking. I remembered something my grandmother once did when a baby's body went cold. She said sometimes cold can wake the body again. So I put her in the freezer. The room went silent. Helen's expression twisted. First disbelief, then horror. You did what? Her voice tore through the air. You put my baby in the freezer. You froze my child. Mercy dropped to her knees. Please, I didn't mean harm. She came back. She started breathing again, I swear. But Helen had already turned, grabbing her phone with shaking hands. Her screams filled the house. Hello. Police. Come now. Someone tried to kill my baby. Mercy's cries filled the room as Helen paced, repeating every horrible detail she believed to be true. Within 15 minutes, flashing blue lights painted the driveway. 2 police officers and a pair of paramedics rushed inside. Where's the child? One officer demanded. Helen pointed at the couch where she sat holding Olivia. She's fine now, but this woman, she put my baby in the freezer. The paramedics gently took the child and began their examination. They checked her breathing, her pulse, her temperature. She's perfectly stable, one of them said softly. No visible injuries, no frostbite. She's fine. Helen's voice rose again. That's because she didn't leave her long enough. She admitted it. She tried to freeze her alive. The officers turned toward Mercy. Ma'am, one said sternly, you're under arrest for child endangerment and attempted murder. Mercy's eyes widened. No, please. I saved her. She was dying. You don't understand. Turn around, the officer ordered. Cold metal cuffs snapped around her wrists. Mercy broke down completely, shaking her head over and over. Please. I didn't mean harm. I saved her. Helen's face hardened, tears and fury mixing as she gave her statement. She told me herself. She put my 8-month-old baby in the freezer. What kind of human does that? She's insane. Take her away. Mercy tried one last time to explain. Madam, she wasn't breathing. It was the food, she reacted. But the officer cut her off. Enough. You'll speak at the station. Every time she opened her mouth, someone silenced her. Her voice became smaller, drowned out by uniformed authority and Helen's cries. By the time they let her out, the whole estate was filled with neighbors, security men, and staff whispering in disbelief. Mercy stumbled as they pushed her toward the police vehicle, tears blurring her vision. She turned one last time toward the house. Helen stood at the doorway, clutching baby Olivia tight, muttering through tears, "You're safe now, my love. That evil woman will never touch you again." The car door slammed. By nightfall, Helen's fury had found a new home, the internet. She opened her social media and typed furiously, hands shaking. Today, my nanny tried to kill my 8-month-old baby. She put her in a freezer. I don't even have words. Please, parents, be careful who you let into your homes. She posted it, along with a blurred image of Mercy being led away by police. Within hours, the post went viral. Hashtag #ArrestTheNanny trended across every platform. Thousands of strangers called for justice, for punishment, for life imprisonment. Mercy sat alone in a cold police cell, her eyes swollen, her clothes still damp from tears. Every sound in the station, the clang of doors, the footsteps of guards, felt far away. She whispered prayers under her breath, rocking slightly on the hard bench. God, you saw me. You know I didn't mean to harm her. Please, please make them see. But in her heart, she already knew. No one would believe the village girl who froze a baby to save her life. Morning light slipped through the bars of the holding cell. Mercy sat motionless, her eyes swollen from the night's tears. She had prayed until her voice broke, begging for one thing, for someone to believe her. That someone arrived just after sunrise. Detective Sarah, a calm but sharp-eyed woman in plain clothes, stepped into the station holding a file marked attempted murder, infant case. Bring her out, she said quietly. In the interrogation room, Mercy sat across from her, hands trembling. The detective's tone was firm, but not cruel. Tell me exactly what happened, she said. From the beginning. Don't leave anything out. Mercy swallowed hard. Madam went for meeting. She left me with the baby and new food she bought. I fed her. Everything normal at first. But after some minutes, she started crying strange, her face red, her lips swelling. She paused, struggling to speak through tears. Then her color changed. Her lips turned blue. She wasn't breathing. I tried calling Madam, but her phone was off. Detective Sarah scribbled notes. Then what did you do? Mercy wiped her nose with the back of her hand. My grandmother was a birth woman in our village. She said when a child stops breathing from food, sometimes cold can wake the heart again. I didn't know what else to do. Sarah looked up sharply. So you thought putting a baby in a freezer was a good idea? Mercy's eyes filled again. I thought she was already dead. I counted exactly 2 minutes, just like my grandmother said. Then she coughed. She breathed again. The detective leaned back, quiet for a moment. Then she stood. We'll need to see the camera footage from that house. 2 hours later, she arrived at Helen's mansion. Helen opened the door, still seething. Have you come to charge that girl? I hope you're not here to make excuses. We're here for evidence, Detective Sarah said calmly. Your security camera footage. We need to review it for the report. Helen crossed her arms. Gladly. You'll see what kind of madness she did. She led them to the living room, opened her laptop, and pulled up the recordings. The footage began. The baby eating, laughing, playing. Then the crying, the swelling, the redness. Within minutes, Olivia's small body went limp. Helen's face twitched as the image froze her child in that helpless state. They watched Mercy on screen, calling frantically, shaking the baby, doing CPR, trying to remember emergency numbers. Then she ran into the kitchen. The detective leaned closer as Mercy pulled open the freezer. Wait, Sarah said quietly. Audio picked up Mercy's shaking voice. 58, 59, 60, 1 minute 61. Her voice cracked with every number until she reached 120. And the baby came out, pale, cold, motionless. Mercy rubbed her chest, crying, praying, and suddenly the baby gasped. A soft cry filled the room. Helen's hand covered her mouth. She blinked rapidly, her anger fading into disbelief. Detective Sarah paused the video and turned to her team. Call the hospital. I want a pediatric specialist here immediately. Within an hour, a doctor arrived, an older man with years etched in his face. He sat quietly as the footage replayed from start to finish. When it ended, he exhaled deeply. This baby suffered a severe anaphylactic shock, he said. She was clinically dead. No breath, no oxygen. Helen's breath caught. Dead. The doctor nodded slowly. From a moment her breathing stopped to when the nanny acted, about 90 seconds. Brain damage usually starts at 4 minutes. He pointed at the screen. What this girl did is known as therapeutic hypothermia. We use it in hospitals to protect the brain during cardiac arrest. Cooling the body slows cellular death and buys time before revival. Helen stared blankly. Are you saying she knew what she was doing? Not in medical terms, the doctor replied, shaking his head, but she executed it perfectly. 2 minutes of cold exposure. That's the precise window we follow. Too short, Useless. Too long, lethal. And she counted it out loud, by instinct. Detective Sarah leaned back, stunned. She's uneducated. From a rural background. How could she know this? The doctor smiled faintly. Because someone taught her something true. Traditional healers discovered the concept centuries before we understood the science. He folded his arms. This woman didn't try to kill that baby. She saved her life, using a method any trained doctor would applaud. Minutes later, the detective made the call. Release her immediately. At the same time, she told Helen, Mrs. Chester, you need to come to the station. There's something you must see. Helen sank into her chair. Tears spilled freely now. Oh my God, she saved her, and I called her a murderer. At the station, the door opened. Mercy stepped in, escorted by an officer. Her eyes were puffy, her face pale from the night in the cell. Helen rose slowly, voice trembling. Mercy, I'm sorry. I didn't listen. You saved my baby, and I had you arrested. Mercy's lips quivered, but she managed a small nod. I understand, madam. You were scared. I was too. I just wanted her to live. Detective Sarah smiled faintly at the two of them. The world needs to hear this. That evening, the police released the statement. Nanny, accused of attempted murder, actually saved infant's life through life-preserving action. The story spread everywhere. Hashtags changed from hashtag arrest the nanny to hashtag thank you mercy. Helen posted a video, tearful and humbled. She saved my child. I judged her because she was poor and uneducated. I was wrong. The doctor began studying Mercy's grandmother's remedies, uncovering ancient methods with clear scientific value. Months later, Helen funded Mercy's education. First aid, nursing, traditional medicine. Together, they created a foundation to document indigenous medical knowledge before it vanished. Mercy's grandmother was brought to the city, honored and recorded as a living archive of wisdom. 6 months later, in a quiet hall filled with doctors and scholars, Mercy stood behind a podium. My grandmother couldn't read or write, she said softly, but she knew how to save lives. Her wisdom saved a baby when modern science couldn't. We must not ignore where we come from. Applause filled the hall. That night, for the first time in months, Mercy slept peacefully, knowing the world finally saw the truth.